Hello everyone and welcome to Hello Word. This is Alex, your guide on this journey through the world of English vocabulary and expressions. I am so excited to have you here for another episode filled with interesting words, practical learning tips, and memorable examples that will help you navigate different daily situations in English. Whether you are a complete beginner or you already have some experience with the language, you will find something valuable and engaging in this episode. Today, we are focusing on a collection of words that appear in a classroom context. These are objects, places, and items that you might encounter when you are at school or studying at home. Each word carries its own importance in day-to-day communication, and by understanding how these words function in sentences, you can develop more confidence in your English skills. In this episode, I will discuss each of these words in detail. Each word will have its own paragraph, and I will give you a clear definition, show how it is typically used in conversation, and provide you with example sentences so you can see it in action. This approach will give you a practical understanding of how to apply these words when talking about your own experiences, writing down notes, or simply chatting with friends about school-related topics. By the end of this episode, you will have learned how to identify these school items in English, how to talk about them, and how to integrate them into real-life conversations. I encourage you to practice these new words often, create your own examples, and keep on exploring the richness of the language. Teacher's desk is our first word for this episode. A teacher's desk is a piece of furniture in the classroom where the teacher sits and organizes lesson materials. This desk often holds papers, books, and other resources the teacher might need, such as a planner or a laptop. In everyday conversation, you might refer to the teacher's desk when you talk about submitting homework or approaching the teacher for help. For example, you could say something like, "May I place my assignment on the teacher's desk now?" This phrase helps you clarify where you should put your work. Another example is, "I went to the teacher's desk to ask for permission to leave class early." As you can see, teacher's desk works as a straightforward noun phrase that indicates a specific place related to the teacher's personal work area. Blackboard is a flat board typically attached to the wall in front of a classroom. The surface is usually dark in color so that the teacher can write on it with chalk, making the letters stand out clearly. You will see blackboards in traditional classrooms, though whiteboards and digital displays are also common these days. Nevertheless, Blackboard remains a well-known term. In daily conversation, you can use Blackboard to describe educational settings, to explain your activities in class, or to talk about learning processes. For instance, you might say, "The teacher wrote our vocabulary words on the blackboard." That sentence conveys exactly where something was written and sets the scene for a typical classroom experience. Another example is, after class, the student stayed behind to clean the blackboard. That sentence shows how you might talk about your responsibilities or chores at school involving this object. Pupil, in a classroom context, means a student, especially in primary or secondary schools. While the word student is far more common in everyday English, pupil still appears in various educational contexts. You might see pupil used in more formal settings or in specific regions that prefer that term. For example, if you read an educational policy document or an older text, you might encounter a sentence like, "Each pupil is expected to wear the school uniform." In daily conversation, you could say, "The teacher congratulated the pupil on her excellent performance in the math competition." Here you are simply indicating that this person is a learner. Another common usage is, "The pupil asked for extra help after class," showing that the learner needed additional support. Understanding the word pupil can help you navigate more formal or traditional descriptions of students in educational contexts. Protractor is a tool used for measuring angles in geometry. You will often find protractors made of transparent plastic, shaped like a semicircle. The purpose of a protractor is to help you measure angles accurately when you are drawing or solving geometry problems. In daily life, You may not talk about protractors very often unless you are discussing school supplies or doing homework involving shapes and angles. However, it is still a useful word to know. You might hear someone say, "My geometry teacher showed us how to use a protractor to measure the angle of a triangle." Another example could be, "Remember to bring your protractor to class so you can complete the exercises on measuring angles." Even though it might seem like a very specific word, it becomes important when you need to describe or handle certain mathematical tasks. Pencil is a common writing instrument that uses a core of graphite, which can be erased easily. You hold a pencil in your hand to write, draw, or sketch on paper, making it one of the most essential tools for students and artists alike. In daily life, you will hear the word pencil frequently, as it is a fundamental item in any learning or working environment. You might say, "Could I borrow a pencil?" This request comes up often when someone has forgotten their own writing utensil. Another practical phrase is, "Make sure to use a pencil for your rough sketches, so you can erase mistakes if you need to." Because pencils are so universal, you will discover that people often mention them in the context of note-taking, test-taking, drawing, and brainstorming sessions. Exercise book refers to a notebook used by students to write down their classwork, homework, or study notes. Sometimes simply called a notebook in certain regions, an exercise book often has lined pages and a soft cover. In daily conversations related to school or studying, you might say, "I have filled up my exercise book with notes from my history class," or, "Do not forget to hand in your exercise book at the end of the lesson." This word highlights the function of the book, emphasizing that it is used for exercises, written tasks, or practice drills. You could also use it in a sentence like, "I keep a separate exercise book for my math problems to stay organized." That way, you can demonstrate how important it is to keep track of work in a dedicated space. Pencil case is a small pouch or box where students store pencils, pens, erasers, and other small writing tools. It is a handy container that helps you keep your stationery organized and prevents you from losing important items. In everyday speech, the phrase pencil case pops up when you mention classroom gear or your bag contents. You might say, "I always carry my pencil case so I have everything I need for class." Another way to use it in a sentence is, "My friend forgot her pencil case at home, so she had to borrow an eraser from me." By using pencil case, you are specifying that you have a dedicated place for writing implements and small school supplies, which is a very practical concept for anyone involved in regular studying or note-taking. Set square is a flat, triangular-shaped tool with one angle set at 90 degrees and the other set at specific measurements. It is commonly used in technical drawing, geometry, or drafting. In a typical school setting, you might need a set square for tasks that require precise right angles or parallel lines. Although you may not mention set squares often in casual conversation, it is still useful to know how to talk about geometry tools. If you were to use it in a sentence, you might say, "The art teacher showed us how to use a set square to line up our designs." Another example is, if you want to draw a perfect right angle, be sure to use a set square. This word is practical in contexts involving drafting, architecture, carpentry, or any environment where straight angles are essential. Ruler is a straight measuring tool, often made of plastic or wood, that is used to measure length or to draw straight lines. It usually has both inches and centimeters marked on it, making it easy to work with different measurement systems. In daily conversation, you might use ruler to describe how you measure objects or distances. For example, you could say, "The teacher asked us to use a ruler to measure the length of the rectangle on our worksheet." Another sample sentence could be, "I always carry a small ruler in my pencil case to help me draw neat diagrams." Because it is such a common and versatile school supply, the word ruler often appears in discussions about drawing, measuring, or doing craft projects. School bag is the next term on the list. A school bag is the bag or backpack students use to carry their textbooks, notebooks, pencil cases, and other essentials. It is an item that most students have with them whenever they go to class. In everyday conversation, you can easily incorporate school bag when discussing the start of a day or after class routines. For instance, you might say, "I need to pack my school bag with my books tonight so I am ready for tomorrow morning." Alternatively, you could mention, "My school bag is getting really heavy because I have 3 textbooks in there." The idea of a school bag extends into any context where you talk about going to school, doing homework, and organizing your supplies. Dictionary is a reference book or resource, either in printed form or digital form, that provides meanings, definitions, and usage examples for words. Many students keep a dictionary handy when studying a new language or when working on essays that require precise word choices. In casual or academic discussions, you might say, "I looked up the definition of that new word in my dictionary, so I could use it properly." Another sentence could be, "Our teacher asked us to consult the dictionary if we are unsure about how to spell or define a term." Even though many people rely on online resources now, the traditional dictionary still remains a powerful educational tool for language learners and anyone who enjoys exploring vocabulary. Glue is a sticky substance used to join things together, often found in small tubes or sticks that students can use in craft projects. In the classroom, glue might be needed to attach pictures to a poster or to complete an art assignment. In everyday conversation, you can mention glue when talking about arts and crafts, repairs, or even figurative language. For example, you might say, "Could you pass me the glue? I want to stick these pictures in my scrapbook." Another way to use it is, "I found some glue on the shelf, so we can fix that broken book cover." In casual speech, you might also encounter phrases like "glued to your seat," indicating someone is so interested or so nervous that they cannot move. However, the most common usage is simply referring to the classroom or household material that binds items together. Telephone is a device that allows you to make calls and speak to people who are not physically present with you. While we have many modern forms of communication like mobile phones, smartphones, and voice-over internet platforms, the word telephone still commonly appears in both everyday and more formal contexts. For example, you might say, "The school office has an old telephone that they still use for important calls." Another daily usage could be, "I tried to telephone my friend, but she did not pick up." Even though you might be more likely to say call or phone these days, telephone remains a basic English word that you will encounter in various situations. It is particularly relevant when you are describing the actual device or a landline phone in a building. Ink cartridge is typically a small container of ink used in a printer or pen. In the context of classroom or office supplies, the idea of an ink cartridge usually comes up when you need to print out assignments or replace the ink in a fountain pen. You could hear it mentioned in a sentence such as, "My printer is out of ink, so I need to buy a new ink cartridge before I can print my report." Another scenario is, if your fountain pen is running dry, you might need a fresh ink cartridge. Although ink cartridge might not be used in casual conversation every day, it is helpful to know when you are dealing with printing or writing tasks that require a specific refill. It captures the idea of a replaceable container for ink, which you might come across in an office or home environment. Marker is a writing instrument that uses pigmented ink. It usually has a thick or fine tip and is commonly used for writing on whiteboards, posters, or other surfaces where you want your writing or drawings to stand out. Markers can come in many different colors, making them especially handy for creative projects or quick labeling tasks. If you need an example, you could say, "I used a bright red marker to label all the boxes in my room." Another usage might be, "The teacher wrote the lesson objectives on the whiteboard with a black marker so we could see them clearly." Markers are typical in classrooms and offices, and they often appear in everyday speech related to organization, teaching, or creative activities. Pocket calculator is a small, portable device used to perform mathematical calculations. It usually contains basic functions like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, though some advanced models have more features like trigonometry or logarithms. In day-to-day conversation, you might not always specify that a calculator is pocket-sized, but the phrase pocket calculator emphasizes that it is convenient, small, and easy to carry around. For example, you could say, I always bring a pocket calculator to math class in case I need to do quick calculations. Another sample sentence is, you can borrow my pocket calculator if you left yours at home. The convenience of a pocket calculator makes it a go-to tool for quick problem solving, even in an age of smartphones with built-in calculators. Having gone through all these words, you can see how each of them connects to the classroom environment and general study situations. From teacher's desk to Blackboard to pocket calculator, they each have a clear meaning and usage in everyday language. I hope these explanations and examples have given you a better understanding of how to integrate them into your speech and how to listen for them when others are talking. By studying these words, you add vital pieces to your English vocabulary toolkit, allowing you to discuss school supplies, geometry tools, and essential items more confidently. Whether you are a student, a teacher, or someone revisiting these concepts, understanding the context and application of these words will help you communicate more precisely and naturally. Before we end this episode of Hello Word, I want to thank you for joining me, Alex, on this exploration of practical classroom vocabulary. Remember that the words you have learned today, such as pencil, dictionary, or protractor, each open a window into how English speakers discuss their learning experiences and everyday school routines. By practicing these words and reflecting on the sample sentences, you can become more fluent and comfortable using them in real-life situations. It is all about connecting the words to your personal context so that they make sense and remain memorable as you continue your language learning journey. As we wrap up, I want to encourage you to take a moment to subscribe to Hello Word, share this podcast with your friends, and leave a review letting us know how this episode helped you or what you would like to learn next. Your feedback guides the content and helps us create more episodes that address your interests and curiosities about the English language. If you have a specific set of words, situations, or topics that you find challenging, feel free to mention them in your comments or messages. I will do my best to incorporate those ideas in future episodes so that we can learn and grow together. Thank you once again for tuning in. Keep practicing your English every day, stay curious, and do not hesitate to revisit the words from this episode whenever you need a refresher. Until next time, this is Alex signing off from Hello Word. Have a wonderful day, keep reaching for your language goals, and stay motivated. I will catch you soon in our next installment, where we will continue exploring more English vocabulary, expressions, and cultural insights. Stay safe and keep learning.